In this tutorial I want to show you the character and paragraph palette for dealing with text. So this is just something I created in another video or for another purpose. But I made some little changes to some things here, and let me show you what I mean by that. So notice the spacing in between the A and the N is much different than the N and the D and the D and the R. I made some changes to the spacing. And to get to your palettes or little windows that will open up those changes, there's a couple ways you can get there. One, you can click on this button right here, toggle the character and paragraph panels. That's if you're in the text tool. Okay, if you've clicked on the text tool, then you can access them this way, and then they'll pop up usually over here. Or you can go to Window and then down to Character or Paragraph. They are two separate panels. So Character is the one I'm going to deal with first. So let me zoom into the options first so you can sort of see what's going on. So it's similar options to what we saw above. There are different font choices. There are different weights of font. We also have the size of the font here. But then we have a few other options available to us. So one is the leading, which we don't have multiple lines right now, but this is sort of your line spacing. So double spaced, that sort of thing. We don't really use that in typography, that terminology. We call it leading. And so there is more specific spacing rather than just 1.5 or 2 line spacing. Then we have something called the kerning. The kerning is the space between two characters. Then we have something called the tracking. Tracking is sort of the space between a set of characters. I'm not going to deal with these others really, but this is basically some sort of distortion or scale if I wanted to scale it vertically or horizontally, and then baseline shift, which again I'm not going to get into for the purpose of this video. You also have other options down here. So these are fake bold and fake italic or faux. All caps, small caps, superscript, subscript, underline, strike through. There's options there as well. So in the case of this space, I changed this to be -100. I'm going to go back to metrics, which is what it normally is. Okay, which you in this case ended up setting it to 20. But basically what that does, it just tries to make sure the spacing looks okay. Sometimes we have issues with letters that might make it look a little weird, and so we have to adjust the spacing so that the spacing looks more natural. So it often happens with like capital and lowercase letters next to each other. And so just pay attention to the spacing. That's where the kerning will come in. The tracking is what I was doing down below here. I wanted to make this text sort of fit across so that it starts at the same place as the M and ends at the same place as the S. But when it's set to 0, it doesn't do that. It doesn't space it out enough. So I started to play with this and tried to find a good option. I got to 200. That wasn't enough, so I went to 300 and sort of playing. Looks like about 320 is about where I want to be. So anyways, that lets me space out the overall spacing between the letters. And then again, like I mentioned before, the line spacing, or what we call leading. So those are the options in the character palette. The paragraph palette is similar. This just has your alignment issues, left, right, or left, yeah, right, and center. And then we also have the justified, and then we have indents. We have the first line indent, and most of this is more for when we have a bunch of text that we're placing in, which I'm not dealing with right now. I'm just dealing with one line of text each. So when we have a lot of text, the paragraph palette will come in more handy.